Where did I go with that?
Wakaki, you need to go to Zoom and stop sharing in there. Stop sharing option, there should be.
For some reason on I don't see a stop sharing.
Okay, I stopped for you.
Okay, thank you. So, welcome everyone to our first webinar of the year. And let me say good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and happy 2026. I'm sure I can get away with this greeting, but I also mean it. It's a happy 2026. Building on last year's success, we intend to make this an even happier year of inspiring engagement and dialogue with not just brilliant speakers, but practical speakers who have practical outcomes to show. We want to actually walk the talk about land restoration. My name is Wagaki Wisniewski, and I will be your moderator today. I lead and communicate the communications work of the UNCCD G20 Global Land Initiative, whose mission is to enable G20 countries to reduce degraded land by 50% by 2040. You probably know that already. And it's an exciting time. I invite you not only to join our monthly webinars, but to also connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, whatever your preferred channel is, so that we can stay in more regular touch. So we start the year with the idea of learning as a driver of restoration with two distinguished speakers today. Dr. Thummarukudy is the director of the G20 Global Land Initiative. Welcome, Muralee. He has over 3 decades of senior management experience and technical expertise in land restoration issues. Prior to joining UNCCD, Muralee was the acting head of the Disasters and Conflicts Program at UNEP, and he led the development of the G20 Theory of Change, which includes a 2040 vision of reaching 1 million university students. I'm sure we are all interested in learning how he envisions UNCCD and G20 and the Initiative Coordination Office achieving this ambition. Our second speaker is Dr. Karen Sudmeier-Rieux. She's an environmental education outreach specialist with 2 decades of experience in researching, teaching, and publishing on ecosystem restoration for reducing climate risks. Karen is also a scholar of ecosystem management for landscape management. And at G20, she has led the development of 2 university courses on trigger change and how we use land globally. One is focused on innovative agricultural solutions, and the other on innovations in urban land restoration. You probably had her asking me not to share her stuff before she's speaking. We've asked Karen to speak about the massive open online course as well that she's developing, because we have gone to that course because of public demand. Without further ado, let me give the floor to Muralee to do his presentation. Muralee, you have about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll give Karen another 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll engage with the participants. Karen, you have the floor.
Karen has a floor or Muralee has a floor?
Oh, sorry, Muralee, you have the floor. and if I may, Muralee, before you take the floor, if you have any questions for Muralee during the presentation, please write them in the chat, Q&A, and he will take them after Karen has spoken. But please keep writing the questions that you have for both of them in that Q&A, and we'll respond sometimes as we go along, but probably at the end. So Muralee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Wagaki. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to those who have joined us to this afternoon here in Bonn to talk about our effort in the education domain, especially the higher education domain. I understand this is associated with the International Education Day, and therefore a very apt opportunity for us to share both what we do, but also our vision. And I'm also very delighted to join in this panel with Dr. Karen, with whom we have co-developed this not only this course or courses, but the vision itself was co-developed. As Wagaki mentioned, I have over 3 decades of international experience, mostly dealing with crisis management. But now with land restoration. In both these cases, educating professionals around the world was in our mandate and also in our interest, because if we had to deal with crises and which are increasing, both conflicts and disasters in the context of climate change, it cannot be done by 10, 20 people sitting in the United Nations, or even 10, 20 people sitting in the capital of each of the 193 UN member states, or even the few people sitting in the capitals of the provinces or even the district. You need people with skill and knowledge in massive numbers. We have, during my previous job in the United Nations and before that in Shell, trained people in groups of 25, 30, maybe at times 40, which is probably the maximum cohort where you can transact knowledge in a conventional classroom. We've done a lot of that training. I have done that training since 1988, where we brought together small cohorts of people, 3 to 5 days intensive classroom experience. It has its place. Clearly, it creates a very good feeling of a community. The cohort then keep in touch. It creates a social network, and certainly knowledge is transferred. And when I used to work in a multinational oil company such as Shell, it was also sufficient because the number of people to whom we had to transact knowledge was rather limited. But when you operate in a system such as the United Nations, and when you want to reach experts from 193 member states, and then you want to reach to the sub-regions of that, to every village in every country, then you want this to be done in numbers, large numbers, tens of thousands, maybe 100,000, maybe a million, maybe even more in some topics. For example, if one were to train people on public health, you probably need few million experts trained. Now, this cannot be done by training people in 20s and 30s, in a group of 20s and 30s. Of course, you can train the trainer and then try to do a bit more. But even then, scaling it as a standalone activity in small cohorts will not get you the numbers which you need. It's also very expensive. A conventional United Nations course of a small cohort for a week would cost anything from $30,000 to $80,000 to transact that knowledge. So when I was working in UNEP, and Karen was luckily working with me at that time, we reflected on this quite a lot. Luckily, Karen was working in a university at that time. I had some affinity to working with universities. So we together thought of this idea that if we were to somehow embed what we want to teach into a university system, then every year it will transact to the cohorts of students who are studying there. Let's say if you were to take a course into a degree course in engineering, and every year, let's say 100 students are studying in multiple batches, every year it will go to 100. So over a period of 10 years, it will go to 1,000. Now, if you were to take a transdisciplinary elective course, then you can go to maybe 1,000 people in one university per year. And if you then multiply that with, let's say, the 10,000 universities which exist in the world, and even if you take 10% of that, suddenly you start to get scale with much lower unit cost effort. This was a theory. Now, this is not very easy because universities are not very easy to penetrate with a new curriculum for all sorts of reasons. Professors have their set way of thinking. Many universities have internal processes which take very, very long time before a course can be approved, and so on. Many universities do not want an international agency to come and give them a preset curriculum and say this is how it should be taught. It could be seen as, being condescending even to the university's academic autonomy. But with all these possibilities and criticism, we thought the benefit of attempting to do something like that far outweighs the risk. As much as it is difficult to get into the university curriculum, once something gets into the university curriculum, it will then stay for a very long time. The type of syllabus which I studied in 1980s, I have often seen the same thing continuing in 2020. So if you manage to break in, then it could go for an entire generation. So therefore, you can train an entire generation of students with any topic you want. This was the mental model we discussed and debated. Luckily, at that point of time, we were connected with the Crown University of Applied Sciences, who had a global network, the Center for Natural Resources and Development, CNRD. And we proposed this idea to them. And we took disaster risk reduction as the pilot course to test this hypothesis. That was in our mandate at that time. It aligned with their own mandate. So we worked with the universities, both in multiple countries. I think at that point of time, they had 12 partner universities, so that it was not being imposed from the north to the south or east to the west, developing to developed countries, etc., because every country has their own circumstances. So working with this partnership, we developed this idea, and then we delivered this into the universities. And to the university, we gave them a very generous offer. We told them that here is 50 hours of teaching material, everything, case studies, lecture note, PowerPoints. You may take the entire course and deliver it in full and co-brand with UN and CNRD. You may take part of it. You may take one slide from our entire 50-hour lecture. So we are not imposing, it's not an all or nothing option. You can take any amount of it, because our hypothesis was that even if a little amount of our thinking go into their curriculum, that's better than not having that at all. We had modest targets at that time, but it worked. We saw that it could work. Against all the criticism of people that it will not work, we found that it worked. Universities around the world, in Nepal, in Chile, in Jordan, in Europe, in the United States, people took up the idea, and either a full course or part course, and we started meeting graduates from these universities much later in time who appreciated what we did. While we were at this job, it was also the time the massive open online courses started to emerge. 2012 was the year of the MOOC. So in 2013, we said we have to get into this at a very early stage. At most times, most of the universities have not even heard about MOOC. So Karen, myself, and our colleague Marisol Estrella, we decided that we have to be the first MOOC in the United Nations system, and we want to reach 100,000 students. Again, it was, these numbers were seen as totally unreasonable at that point of time. We partnered with a German startup platform called Iversity. And the very first iteration, we got more than 12,000 people to sign up. And we had more than 3,000 people who completed that course. Then we had a second course developed, which Karen probably would refer to her in her presentation as well, that we reached over 100,000 with more than 25,000 people who completed the course. But we were not just happy that the course somehow reached people. We also wanted to verify the pedagogic philosophy as to whether teaching something online is as effective as teaching in person. So we continued to do research. So it was a learning experience for us as well. And we have some evidence that online teaching is equally and sometimes even more effective than teaching in classrooms. So we work on two parallel tracks to reach big numbers. So coming to the current scenario, when we started the Global Land Initiative with a target of reaching 1 billion hectares of land being restored, we started looking at the human capacity, expertise available to do that. The largest network of restoration professionals is the Society for Ecological Restoration, existence for more than 30 years, and they have less than 10,000 members. It's a big number, but clearly not big enough to deal with 1 billion hectares. If we were to reach the target, we'll be spending more than $1.5 trillion in it. We meaning the global community, which is committed to this target, would be spending $1.5 trillion. In the government sector, in civil society, in private sector, in the wetlands, in the agricultural land, in forestry, in urban land. And where is the expertise? Who would backstop this? Where are the people in the universities? Where are the people in the urban planning? Where are the people in the agricultural department? Where are the people in the mining industry? How do we create these numbers? Once again, Karen joined us in this journey, and we set up two challenging targets. We wanted to reach 1 million university graduates, and we want to reach 1 million people online. So together we'll have 2 million. Again, these targets were considered completely unreasonable, but Karen will show how fast we have moved towards this target. And 1 million now actually look very modest. That will be reaching much more than those numbers. With the confidence we gained in dealing with the disaster course reaching more than 100,000 people, we are now going with a MOOC to reach 1 million students. The work is starting. The blueprinting is ongoing now. And I have no doubt that with Karen's leadership and the support of already hundreds of universities with whom we have network and tens of thousands of students who have gone through our MOOC, but also our university courses, that we will surpass the 1 million target in the MOOC as well. And I'm sure that will then eventually translate not only to act of restoration, but also pressure to have more restoration. When you have more people, more expertise, more examples out there, that will translate to a lot more land restoration, and we will reach not only the 1 billion hectares, but even more. So I'm very delighted in this day to share our vision and dream with you. And I want to thank Pagaki for organizing this event. And I look forward to this session, and I'll be available for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Muralee. Very inspiring initial thoughts. 1 million university students and 1 million online. Karen, over to you. What are you doing about that?
Yeah, no pressure, right, Pagaki? So thanks again to Dr. Muralee for having presented the vision. And the inspiration and some of the thinking behind some of the work that we're doing at the UNCCD G20 Global Land Initiative. So it's true that I'm feeling very fortunate today to wish you all happy International Education Day, which is coming up a little bit later this week, but we might as well call it the entire week dedicated to International Education Day. I feel very fortunate to have been able to be educated and remember the many teachers and mentors along the way that helped to educate me. And I'm sure that all of you who are joining today would agree that you wouldn't be where you are today or the person you are today if you didn't have the kind of education to which you had access. So here we are, a couple of old timers talking about education, but I'm sure there are many young people joining today and you're more than welcome to tell us where you're from, add in the chat where you're from, and some of your thoughts on education and why you're celebrating International Education Day. It'd be fun to hear from you. So yes, indeed, we have quite a lot of experience now in developing open source, freely accessible education materials. First was on nature-based solutions for disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation, as Dr. Muralee mentioned. And I would just like to make a slight correction to Dr. Muralee's claims to some of our numbers. So actually we reached 128,000 people with our MOOC, 34,000 completed the MOOC, and that's 25% completion rate. So those are pretty good numbers. And it's true that when Dr. Muralee first said that our target was 100,000, I never believed that we'd be able to achieve that. And then we actually went over that target. Now, I had always heard that for the next target, we had 1 million total, but now I guess it's 2 million. So it's now been multiplied. So yeah, well, I better get to work on this right away. But actually, we have been getting to work on this, and we have already developed 2 master's courses, as Dr. Muralee mentioned. Do you mind sharing your screen now, Wagaki? We tested this before. Let's see if this works. I want to tell you in a practical way how you can access these courses that Muralee has mentioned. Let's see if I can also put this link in the chat here. Let's see here. So
Let me can see it.
I can, yes, we can see. Okay, I'll have to do the link later on in the chat. So let's see. So the first course, if you can scroll down a little bit, that we launched last year is Innovations in Sustainable Agriculture Solutions for Land Restoration. And this was a course launched or co-developed by experts and universities from around the world. It is approximately 50 hours of learning materials. And as Dr. Muralee mentioned, you can take one slide or the entire package. Do you want to click on that just really briefly, Wagaki? And so what we're really trying to do with Trigger Change Innovations in Sustainable Agriculture is really something outside of the box. We're really trying to catalyze innovation in startups. So we talk, about sustainable agriculture, but also tools and technologies, but all decision-making and catalysts for innovation in startups and how to create your own business in the field. You can download the entire package. If you scroll down there a bit, Wagaki, it's easy for people to fill out. Oop, there I am again. It's easy for you to fill out the package, submit. You have to agree to our terms and conditions. Now, one thing I want to point out, and you can see some of the partners, experts and leaders in the field. If you keep scrolling down, Wagaki, you can also see some of our blogs. We no longer have any upcoming events, but we do have a community of practice. And I'm very proud that we have already almost 1,000 people in our LinkedIn group. So for this course, we have already over 1,200 downloads of the course, around 600 universities who have downloaded our course package, of which most of them are already teaching this course. So this is the first course I wanted to tell you about. Can you go up to trainings and go to go back and let's take a look at our urban. So the second course that we launched this year is called Innovations in Sustainable Urban Land Restoration. And this course is intended like the previous course, mainly for university professors. Okay, so these are university package kits because we want the information and the teachings on land restoration to be embedded in university curricula. That'll make it a lot more sustainable than if we're sending out the package and making it easy for students to take. We do want that to happen through our MOOC, but these are really intended to be embedded and institutionalized. So this course on sustainable urban land restoration also leads up to understanding what is sustainable urban land restoration and what is the business case for that. How can you get involved? How could you start your own business in the field? And how can university teachers teach this in their courses? So both courses are very transdisciplinary. They are not normally taught in this format, which is what makes it very innovative. Again, it's very easy to download the package. It should just be able to be done in 1 or 2 clicks. For the agriculture course, we have that course translated into 3 languages. The urban course, we have it in English, and Spanish is coming. Hopefully, we'll have it also, both the courses in Russian and also in French. So if you sign up for our newsletter, we will be letting you know when these courses become available in other languages. So it's very important that you do sign up for our newsletter. If you go back to trainings, Wagaki, let me tell you about our next adventure, let's say. I think you can click on read more, if you don't mind. Yes, so if the other course packages were mainly intended for universities and to be embedded and institutionalized in university curricula for agriculture planning programs or agriculture related, and the other one for urban planning related, this course is for you directly. And anybody can sign up to take this course. It is hopefully going to be launched, let's say May, June. I said spring. May is still spring, isn't it? And the main idea of this course is really to get you excited about land restoration. We want you to feel like you belong in land restoration, that there is a career in there for you. There's inspiration in land restoration for you. And we have lots of positive stories about how you can contribute as a future profession or expand your profession to include land restoration. So what you'll discover is why do we have land degradation? But what are some of the positive stories behind land restoration? Inspiring actions by communities, youth, NGOs, and businesses. Keys to successful restoration and career opportunities for you in restoration, from nature-based solutions to green startups. So we hope that you'll find this exciting, and there's no prerequisites for taking this massive open online course. Massive open online course also means that it's free, and we will have details as they come. But rest assured that we're working on developing the detailed outlines, working on the scripts. From there, we'll go to filming with two experts who will be filmed, and we'll have many examples and case study videos, quizzes, and interactive online documents with background information so you can learn more as well. So there you can click on signing up, and also this will keep you updated on the progress of our MOOC, and we'll start to kind of feed you with interesting tidbits about how we're doing and progress. So please do sign up, share the link with a friend. And yeah, I think, Wagaki, that was basically what I wanted to do a little bit of show and tell on. So back to you, Wagaki. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the keeping to the time so that we have a lot more time for engagement. I haven't received any questions yet, but I'm curious to know from you, Muralee, and perhaps from Karen, given the experience that you had with the previous MOOCs, how best can our participants really prepare for the MOOC that's coming up? And in terms of supporting you with perhaps reaching out to professors, what can some of the colleagues, I see there are lots of people coming from the NGO community. How can they support you in at least getting that information out to universities? What are your thoughts, and what worked last time that maybe they can build on?
Thank you. Okay, I'll make a start and then Karen can continue. Maybe you can stop sharing the screen.
So,
our experience from the last 2 or actually 3 rounds of MOOC is that the offtake per se is not the biggest challenge. It is to get to people's attention. As they say, we are now in this attention economy. How will our course reach the concerned people's Facebook or Instagram page or LinkedIn page? This is a challenge. The more people whom we can reach, the better will be the offtake. Those who are joined here, of course, they are already part of the group who are enthusiastic, and we have now information about them. They have our information. They would obviously be able to directly benefit from the course. But from that point of time, it is really about their background. If they are from the academics, if they are from students, for example, first of all, this is an opportunity for them to get that course directly, the MOOC, when it's ready. But it's also an opportunity for them to look at our other 2 courses, the agricultural and urban course, and take it up to their professors and say, I attended this wonderful webinar. They have these courses, multiple languages. Can we at least review the course? And I'm sure somebody who review our course would be very tempted to take it up. We also encourage, and this is a real example, and Karen can also talk about it. We actually found that some of our course materials were picked up by other actors, including civil society actors and universities. They translated that into a summer program, and at times even a costed summer program, and delivered. This is not something which we are against, because this all show that there's a market demand for this. So if you are in the civil society world, we encourage you to sign up the course, use the course, or even consider, creating a course which value out to people, bring the cohorts together, and so on, and we'll be very happy to connect with you. So spread the word, learn yourself, but also spread the word is what I would say. Thank you. Karen.
Yes, I just want to confirm that I think the link between the MOOC and the academic courses are very close. Let me give you an example. So many of the 34,000 graduates of our course then reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, I'm really interested in this topic. How can I pursue a master's degree or PhD in this topic? And I would then reach out within my network and see to whom I could recommend these students. As a result, actually, of the master's course that we had at UNEP, where we trained over 200 universities so just to let you know, this discussion on online training versus in-person. So we did in-person training before COVID of 200 university professors at a huge cost. Just last year, we trained 350 professors online to a relatively low cost. And we found that the results are quite similar, actually, with doing online training. So going back to the course with UNEP, there then became a summer school that was developed by a university and a winter school by another university. And actually on Monday evening, I attended a 2-hour session with the winter school developed by a US university with 60 students from around the world who are still interested in that topic. So we've had several spin-offs, and I think a lot of the people who joined this winter school had also taken our MOOC. And so we are in a way we created demand by having this MOOC out there. And so there's this positive feedback loop that we found. So through we have a mailing list now of universities who have downloaded our course. We have an additional 3,000 universities to whom we're still reaching out. So we're very hopeful that by being connected with this university network, that we are creating demand also for more learning in this field. So there definitely is a positive feedback loop between the MOOC and the university courses, and they're certainly helping each other out, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We have 3 more questions, but before I jump into those questions, something that just crossed my mind as you said that, are these MOOCs going to be targeting individuals directly, or are they trainers? Who are you? Who's the target? Is it the individual who wants to participate, or thanks?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So yes, this is definitely for individuals. We're targeting individuals directly. That means that you can be a student, you can be a community leader, you can be a community member, a regular citizen, a policymaker, a teacher. So we'll be reaching out to multiple targets. We think and we know from our previous MOOC that it's mainly going to be young people between probably we had average age of the MOOC was 24 years old. We had anything from a 9-year-old to a 90-year-old taking our MOOC. So we do know that we're going to have a lot of Gen Z participating. They're a very powerful cohort now in the world. And so we are going to be designing the MOOC for them, but also keeping in mind the other cohorts, policymakers, community leaders, who might be a little bit frustrated if they feel like this master's course is a bit perhaps above their level, but not to worry. A lot of learning from the master's courses they'll be able to find in the MOOC. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a question about how to adapt this course so that rural communities stop seeing drought only as climate catastrophe and start managing it through ecosystem restoration and aquifer recharge. I think linked to that is a question of, is this master's course available globally? But then how can you adapt, environmental education curricula? I think that's a broader question. But you can answer both. Thank you.
Okay, should I go ahead on that one?
Let's go ahead, Karen.
Yeah. So in general, I mean, the master's course, we have both master's courses, we have really tried to have examples from around the world. And we have case studies from around the world. Now, we don't have case studies from every single country, but we have attempted to have case studies on different types of agriculture, sustainable agriculture from different regions and different eco-zones. We have quite a lot on drylands and good practices in drylands. And we also, of course, you can take the materials and you can adapt them to your own situation. You can find your own local case studies. So some of the principles that we present in the courses are globally useful. Now, on the specific example on the dry lands, I didn't really catch all the details. But we do talk a lot about trying to keep a critical mind and critical thinking. So we have several exercises where we say, really, is climate change the only reason why this area is suffering? And we really do encourage a lot of critical thinking in our courses that should prompt educators to be able to respond and provide also more critical thinking to their students as well. Now, in terms of taking a university course and transforming it for a specific community, yes, I cannot help you with that exactly, but you are welcome to download our course materials and take whatever you find useful. This is exactly what happened with our winter and summer schools, or summer schools developed by the other universities. They took what they thought was relevant for their situations. They reorganized, repackaged, and we were completely happy for them to do that, because this is how our materials relive in a different, with a different brand, with a different packaging. We do ask that you credit us, of course, and you make sure that you acknowledge where the materials came from. But other than that, I mean, we're part of the United Nations family. We want you to be able to use these course materials in the most useful way. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I think there's a question about whether, Mauritania is among these countries. I would say yes. I think there's a course in French, right? So
Also Arabic, isn't it?
yeah.
We have in Arabic, the agriculture course we have in Arabic, and we are looking into translating into French. We're looking into translating into Russian. If we translate if and once we get the course translated into French, there has been a lot of demand. I also speak French, and I would be happy to host a webinar in French. So that is my personal commitment to try to get the French out there. You only find out if you sign up for our newsletter. So I encourage you to do that. Again, sign up for our newsletter, and we will let you know as soon as we have materials in other languages as well.
Thank you. And I guess also what you're saying, Karen, is that for those who are online and might be interested in this course, we don't have all of the names of the professors that would likely teach these courses. And so you can reach out to us. I'll put our address, or if you subscribe, you can also mention that that you have a contact so that we know who to reach out to. On the question that about environmental education curricula, I think it was more the question of how do we manage the curriculum. Now, this is to you as a scholar. How do you manage the curriculum so that people don't see drought only as an environmental catastrophe, but as an issue of dealing with land, aquifers and all of that? How do you pivot to that? So this is a more general question, but for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can respond to that again by saying that we really do encourage critical thinking. And I think that the person who asked the question also knows the answer. And so this is also one way. One thing that we do promote is not just top-down teaching. We promote interactive teaching, and we promote using basically that the educators should act as facilitators of learning and not as trying to students sometimes we sometimes are a bit lazy when we've been students, and we expect the teachers to pour the knowledge into our brains. That's not the most effective way of teaching. The most effective way of teaching is that the educators act as facilitators and encourage critical thinking, and encourage putting questions out there to the students and asking the students, well, what do you think? And trying to get dialogue going. So this has also been part of our philosophy of pedagogy, is really to encourage this kind of question. So I'm not going to answer that question, Wagaki. I'm going to say that I think the person who asked it knows the question and can very well encourage debate in their classroom on that question.
Thank you. And Muralee, there's somebody who agrees with you in terms of succeeding if we have restoration integrated in the school curriculum, but wants to know how CSOs and media are engaged in the advocacy process, which is important in this regard.
The CSO and media, do you want to take the question, or would you like me to answer it?
Do you want?
Why don't you go for it? You can talk about our, dance festival in South Africa.
So yeah, I wanted the director to take the question, but he's directed it back to me. So as the communications lead, I can tell you how we are working on this. One of the things we have learned is that people don't especially like to engage with land. We like to eat from the land. We like to build nice houses on the land. But we don't always give it the respect that it's due. And it's partly because we've kind of lost our touch with the land. So we've gone into looking at how we can integrate art, music, and culture in education and in communication. So especially, once you attend a MOOC, for example, it's probably not enough for you to be able to transmit that knowledge or even to practice that knowledge. However, you can use, for example, food festivals, which are available or happening in communities, why don't you use a food festival, and why don't we use food festivals as moments of learning? So one of the things we are trying to curate is a way by which communities that actually do land restoration bring into those activities festivals, food festivals, music festivals, art festivals, camping, weekends that are restoration oriented, but that have fun with it, because you can also engage the family beyond the one person. On the other hand, there are people who have festivals and all they do is sing and dance, but they don't give credit to the land. How can we use those festivals as moments of learning how to manage waste and bring in the concept of land restoration? Why don't we have in those festivals moments or exhibitions or areas where we can engage with communities? So that's how we are looking at this beyond the traditional way of reaching out through TOTs or reaching out through traditional ways of communicating with CSOs and announcing that these are the MOOCs coming. So we're looking at actually making it practical and a livable experience. You want to compliment, Muralee?
No, thank you, Magaki. That's fantastic, because we just wanted to say that it's not, we don't see academic pedagogy as the only way of teaching things. We also see it immersive approaches as well. There's a question from Nicola. You may have seen it, and maybe you can direct that to Karen.
I haven't seen the question from Nicola.
I see it.
Okay.
I see it. I'm a learning designer from South Africa, currently working in environmental education. How do you assess the impact of your courses on learners you're reaching? Are there long-term indicators you are tracking? Nicola, that's a super good question. And maybe you could let us know how you're doing that, because this is not always easy. We do develop a survey, and I did send out a survey to all of our course participants. And I think I sent them at least 3-4 reminders, and also promised to send them a book. So we managed to get a response rate of between 20-25%, which was very useful. And we did ask them questions on how are you using the course materials. One interesting statistic from that survey is that we found that 75% of the universities that responded, or actually 75% of all respondents, said that they are already using some of the course materials. I think 30% said that they're already teaching the entire course. And so we'll continue to send out surveys. What's tricky is getting people to respond. So Nicola, if you have any tips on how to get people to respond, that's great. Maybe we need to promise to send them Swiss chocolates or something. I think the response rate would skyrocket if we did that. But yeah, so trying to figure out the impact is extremely important. And that also did help us, the responses to participants from the agriculture course helped us in a bit reshaping the urban course by taking into account some of the responses we got from that survey. So that's the best way we found, Nicola, of following up with people, is through the survey that we did. I was a bit disappointed in the 23% response rate. I was aiming for higher, but it was, like I said, we tried. I think I sent out at least 3-4 messages, and at some point people will get angry at me if I send out too many reminders. So Nicola's saying we've also opted for surveys, but we've had to incentivize survey completion as well. Yeah. Okay. So that was in response to Nicola's question.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. I just wanted to add now, you're talking about the Swiss chocolate thing. And I think incentivizing is key. Whether we are able to do Swiss chocolate, I'm not sure. But I was thinking, our good friend Tim Christopherson has written a new book called Generation Restoration. And maybe we can think of, sending them all a coupon to, if they complete it, they can get a course of the, they get a copy of the book, which could be interesting in our next round. So let me talk to Tim and see whether we can get a bulk order of this book. Thank you.
Good idea, Muralee. Our incentive was to send out the course manual, which I thought was incentive enough, but why not look into this other book? Thank you for that suggestion.
And yes, I mean, good that you're making suggestions here. I would also suggest to the participants, it's not just questions. If you have ideas of how we can do these things better, please also put them in the chat. For example, I think one of the things Muralee shared that stood out for me is that when they started the MOOC, it was very, very early on when this idea was like new. And that probably, the novelty of it probably helped in terms of outreach and in terms of how many people joined, but you also worked with an startup, iVersity. And I'm wondering whether from among the participants here, you might know of other channels like those that might be really coming on board that we could hop onto and work with as a way to actually ramp it up. The challenge is not just for us, it's for all of us, because you're also involved in this space. I think, we would really benefit from those thoughts. Second thing I wanted to point out, I talked about food festivals, and I saw somebody thought that was a great point. I would like to draw your attention to what an organization in South Africa called Green Pop. And they're the ones who've really developed this idea, and they have an event called the Forest Festival that's coming up this April. I think if you head to Green Pop and look for Reforest Fest 2026, Reforest Fest 2026, you might get a bit more information about what they do in that regard, because I want to give credit to them. This idea of, food festivals has come by way, we've just learned about them. We were interested in culture and we learned from them how they are doing it. So if you're interested more in that, you can reach out to Green Pop. Now, there's a question here about how youth-led organizations can access these resources to engage in land restoration for people like one of the participants who's in South Sudan. Karen, Muralee, any ideas?
I can go ahead and answer, and then perhaps Muralee has a different take on it.
Yes.
But certainly the MOOC will be very adapted to the youth organizations. This will really be our main target audience, and we're going to make it, I believe, interesting for them to take the MOOC. Now, this kind of also gets to the question on certificates. Each person who completes the MOOC will get a certificate with the UN logo on it. And I've seen that a lot of young people do add MOOCs to their resumes, to their CVs. So, I mean, a MOOC doesn't carry the same weight as a university course, but it certainly does have some weight. When I look at CVs and I see young people who have taken many MOOCs, I think, these students are trying to improve their lives. They're really curious people, and they really want to engage with learning. So I would definitely say that the MOOC, keep in contact, Sasa, and you can definitely share the link to our MOOC with your youth-led organizations in South Sudan. Over to you, Muralee, if you have any takes on this.
Thank you, Karen. I just want to add that capacity building is one of our key pillars of activity at the Global Land Initiative. So as Karen mentioned, there are many ways in which we are reaching out to youth, focusing on youth, and the MOOC will clearly fill the gap of those who are outside the university to take the course. There's a lot more we do with youth. We have a specific program, a small grants program for organizations who are working in the domain of land restoration to undertake activities, which could include actually doing trainings locally on the question of land restoration. So you can actually get resources if you are already working in this domain so that you could train more people. We have support for young people who want to set up a business on land restoration. And all this keep coming. So as Karen mentioned, please subscribe to our newsletter, follow our channels. There's a lot we are working with youth and for youth. Thank you.
Well, Gake, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I was just acknowledging the suggestion that we have received about an academic paper thesis writing on land restoration supported by G20. Something to think about. And thank you so much for that input. So, one last question, Karen, that I thought might be interesting for the participants also. In the MOOC, did you mention what kinds of subjects you're covering, what kinds of modules you will have there, or?
Yeah, so there's a little bit on the website on that. Basically, we'll be covering what is land degradation, what is land restoration, and why should you be concerned with this topic? Why should you as an individual be worried about your health, the kind of food you get? All that comes from our land. So we want to really make sure that this MOOC is about people's own perspectives on land restoration and how you might personally be affected by that. And then we'll go to good examples in land restoration. We'll cover different types of case studies from agriculture, positive stories and good examples from agriculture, from urban, post-mining, forestry, rangelands, but also some teaching tools and kits that teachers at the elementary or primary school level might be able to access to incorporate this in their curriculum. And then we'll end off with examples of careers in this field and profiles of professionals who are working in this field, so that young people and less young people can have some models for, oh, that would be an interesting kind of career. Well, how did that person get the education, gain access to that education, or how could I also follow a similar pathway? So we'll have these kind of professional profiles of people who are working in this field and giving ideas and hopefully inspiration to young people. And also how you might be able to create your own business in the field. Some ideas of business cases and how a pathway that leads to creating your own pathway. We also want to create a bit of excitement with the MOOC, and we may have some cliffhangers, some bloopers, and we do feel that even though this is a serious topic, learning should be fun, and it's going to be a lot more effective when it's fun. Thank you for the question again, Wakaki.
Thank you. Any last words, Muralee? We're down to the wire, but would love to hear your thoughts. Any last thoughts you might have on this?
Thank you. I was looking at the number of people who came and who are staying, and I can see that 90% of those who started with us are still here, which shows that the topic is of interest. But it's also a reflection of the main point which I mentioned, that the more people who come, the more people will stay. But our challenge is to get to these more people. So I hope those who came here will spread the word, watch the space, keep in touch, and whenever we are ready with our MOOC and also our university courses in multiple languages, take it up and take it forward. Wakaki has already shared our common email address. So please feel free to reach out to us. Also reach out to us through our various social media channels, because this is not something which we at the Initiative Coordination Office or the UN want to do it for ourselves. This is a global challenge for the humanity, and we are all in it. So we look forward to your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Karen, Sudmeier, and Dr. Muralee for spending your hour with us. I personally have learned a lot about the multiplication idea that Muralee came up with, and you both came up with in terms of reaching out. And I also want to thank all our participants for showing up in a timely manner and also for the active engagement. We look forward to seeing you for the next webinar, which is on wetlands. And yes, we also always appreciate your feedback. So if you want to send us feedback about ideas or topics that you would like us to cover, also drop us a line on that g20icu@unccd.int. With that, have a lovely afternoon and thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.